Welcome, possessed teenagers, suspicious captains, and amnesiac school teachers. This is episode 351 of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 29th of April, 2020, and featuring The Edge of Destruction, starring William Hartnell as the Doctor, Carol Ann Ford as Susan, Jacqueline Hill as Barbara Wright, and William Russell as Ian Chesterton. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and I almost substituted the last name Campbell in for Susan before I remembered we're way too early for that. With me are Randy Ronson McCulloch.
Matt put me in front of Colin Baker again.
Mad Matt Winchell.
I'm in front of the third Doctor.
Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
I'm in front of David Tennant. Woohoo.
And Thomas Fireheart.
Kind of a fitting serial to watch given what's going on at the moment.
That's a good point. The bottle episode when we're all supposed to be cooped in our houses. Unless we sell food for a living.
Well,
Yay.
I mean, I go to the grocery store once a week. And that's like the extent of my going out. And that's because I need food to eat, to live on. And I don't trust them to do home delivery.
Japanese soda.
I caved in and bought the Instacart for $9.99 a month.
My family goes up for the groceries we need still. We're in a tiny town, so we're not as likely to get anything, but we still do it only as much as we need to.
Yeah, like I said, we go out once a week, and that's the extent that I go out. I think the last weekend we had to go out, but I never left the car because Aaron forgot to get cat stuff.
Were either of your cities any of the one? I know Matt, probably not Matt, because as he said, small town. But are either of you in places where they had the protests of, we don't want to?
Oh yeah,
distance?
Matt. There's protesters in Madison. Of course, anybody says protest in Madison, and 500 people.
Yeah,
there's gonna be a couple hundred there at least,
Mm-hmm.
even when they're not supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've had any official protests, but there's definitely been enough loud Mexican music that I'm pretty sure there are parties going on up and down my street for no reason.
Yeah, because people are stupid.
People just never want to listen. When y'all get sick, it's your own fault.
Yeah. But no, Madison is known for its protests.
You just whisper the word and people will be there, and at least a group of 10 or more.
Yeah, it's been happening with the student body since like the 60s. Back when they would protest the war. Nowadays, they sign up weekends where they can protest various things.
Welcome to Wisconsin. Freely protest thing you want. Howdy doody, neighbor.
Yep. But yeah, this week I just basically sat around. It was the last 2 weeks actually. Had a nice thing. Almost done with Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I'm on like the last DLC. I'm on chapter 2 of 3 of the last DLC. Although I also took the time in the past week to watch the entire body of the Angry Video Game Nerd just because. And interesting enough, it does happen to... I do tend to sound an awful lot like him when I'm fighting a boss in a video game. I can't tell you the amount of time Aaron heard me go, "Fuck!"
I'm pretty sure the last time I was quite at his level was the last time I was fighting Seymour Guado.
No, it was the beginning of chapter 2 of that last DLC. You have to fight Cerberus, and it took me about 3/4 of a day to beat Cerberus. So, and the fights were only lasting about 2-3 minutes long. I had to take a couple breaks to cool off, but yeah, it was fuck. Shit, fuck. Goddamn fucking people. Yeah, I've done that one a couple of times too. it's just, you get so enraged because bosses can be so incredibly cheap. But then finally, yesterday morning, I beat Cerberus, and I'm just like, oh, yes. Thank you. I haven't played it at all today. I mean, I basically took the day off to relax. I'm like, ugh.
I don't need more of this right now.
Because right after that, you meet Hades, and Hades is just like, you killed my dog. I'm like, oh, God damn it.
Hades is John Wick.
What a twist. Didn't know John
See,
Wick's
I've never
dog had
watched
3
a
heads.
John Wick movie, but I've seen enough memes.
I'm not really big on John Wick, so.
Yeah. Funny thing is, I probably have more for Geek Talk this week, but I ended up spending most of it powering through a decent amount of Critical Role.
That's
I'm
good.
ending.
Time well spent.
I'm up to, I think, like episode 111 of campaign 1 now, so I'm in the home stretch. So,
You're
like-
probably further than I am, because I think I was at about 106 when I finally died out.
And he started after you, Randy.
Yeah, I know. Well, that when I restarted, I went back to like episode 80. So, and then I only listened to about 10 episodes before I kind of got distracted. It's very hard to play a game with a lot of speaking parts, like Assassin's Creed, and listen to something at the same time.
Yeah, you need to be playing something like Conan Exiles or Minecraft.
Or Minecraft or something silly like that where you don't need to really listen. But a cutscene game like Assassin's Creed or Grand Theft Auto or Watch Dogs or anything like that, you actually need to listen to the dialogue when it comes up, so you can't be listening to other stuff.
Yeah. Like, I've basically just been watching it while, like, either talking to people or, like, playing Animal Crossing or Splatoon and
also
stuff
a good
like
game
that.
for that, yeah. Well, Animal Crossing is definitely another good option similar to that. Meanwhile, every Thursday I keep checking the live stream. Have they decided to actually stream from home yet? Nope. Okay, good night. Moving on to something else.
Creed reveal today, live stream. It was a live stream that lasted about 7.5 hours.
Jesus.
Of a guy in Photoshop drawing a picture.
As you do.
And then at the end of it, they put, join us tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pacific time for the teaser trailer for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So they got people to watch 7.5 hours, and they didn't even give us the payoff.
So basically, they tricked you into watching Bob Ross.
The guy was apparently a big famous fan art guy. And it wasn't a fan art picture for Valhalla. It was actually pretty damn cool. But 7.5 hours.
Lies and deceit.
I basically sat there and I did other things. I actually worked a little bit on the new. I looked up at the birthdays and stuff while just having that sitting on my phone in the background.
Never going to add a little beard here.
Well, that was the big debate. People were wondering if the main character was going to be male or female. Because the last one, Odyssey, you got the picture to choose, but officially the main character in Odyssey is the female, Cassandra. So so when they were going to reveal the new character, and this is like, is it male or is it female? And people were, spouting their opinions and everything. By the way, spoiler alert, it's a guy. Because he did have a braided beard. Anyway, on tonight's show, we got news and birthdays, and I have a rumor mill I want to break based on our final news article.
Okay.
We have a little bit of Geek Talk, one item. I do have a small rant that is probably going to be Carlin style. I need to get off my chest.
Oh, I think I have Geek Talk too technically, but I can save that for next week.
All right, and then we've got our episode summary, our review, our final thoughts, and our ratings. So let's go into birthdays, and we've got quite a bit of them. It's been 2 weeks. Starting off with April 17th. That would be about, 2 days after our last podcast? Was the birthday of David Bradley, who played the first Doctor in Twice Upon a Time. Also, of course, played William Hartnell in Adventures in Space and Time.
Mm-hmm.
And that guy in Dinosaurs on a Spaceship.
And that guy in Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. Also, Mr. Filch in the Harry Potter movies. He turned 78. April 18th is our bulk of our birthdays, because we start off with the birthday of David Tennant, who played the Doctor from 2005 to 2009. He turned 49. On the same day is the birthday of Camille Kaduri, who played Jackie Tyler from 2005 to 2006. She turned 55. Also, the same
in 2008.
Did she come back in
I
2008?
think yes. I think.
I know we saw Rose in 2008. I don't
wait.
remember Jackie.
Now I'm not. Now I'm less certain now that I said it out loud.
You're talking about the season where she got sent back to the parallel universe, yes?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I only
he had a close. Wait, no.
No, I thought it was on the beach. It was just the two tenants and Rose.
Yeah, she might not have been there. No. I
And
think she was
Donna.
mentioned. She might have just been mentioned.
She was
She was
mentioned,
mentioned,
but she wasn't there.
she was not there.
All right. Also, the same day is the birthday of Eric Roberts, who played the Master in 1996. He turned 64. And on the same day is the birthday of David Whitaker, a script editor and writer from 1963 to 1970.
I believe he's also the writer for the episode tonight.
Yep.
Probably.
Yes,
He
he
would have
is.
been.
Makes sense. He was the script editor at the time. So.
Yep. And this was a throw together episode. So
Yeah. This
It's
was
like-
we need 2 episodes to stall.
yeah,
Hey,
you know that.
Hey,
you know
David,
that
do you think you can put
six-parter?
together a 2-parter?
Yeah, you know that 6-parter we had planned up ahead. Well, that's a 4-parter now. So we need you to build a 2-parter and put it right here. Yeah. Anyway, he
Put
would have
it
been
right in a
92.
bottle.
Would have been 92, but he died in 1980 at the end of 51. That's also why the serial didn't have much of a budget, Bill. It was literally penciled in at the last minute.
Mhm.
So we're going to give
That's
you...
right. It was supposed to be the Sun Eaters was supposed to be around this time, if I recall.
Oh, was that it? There was supposed to be another serial, and they broke that.
I
They
think
killed
so.
that serial, added 2 episodes to like Marco Polo or something, and then...
I think so.
Okay. Anyway, he would have been 92, but died in 1980 at the age of 51. Moving forward to April 20th is the birthday of Louise Jameson, who played Leela from 1977 to 1978. She turned 69. Wow, that's hard to contemplate, the fact that Leela's 69 now.
Nice.
Yep.
I was waiting for someone to say it.
69, dude.
Anyway, the next day, the 21st, is the birthday of Gerald Flood, who was the voice of Chameleon from 1983 to 84. He would have been 93, but died in 1989 at the age of 61. And then finally, we skip ahead to the 27th, and that is the birthday of Jenna Coleman, who played Clara from 2013 to 2016. She turned 34. Technically, she was there in 2012, too, but she wasn't technically playing Clara.
Mhm.
Or she kind of was and kind of wasn't. It's
Her
all
character's
fucked up.
confusing.
And then on the same day is the birthday of Russell T. Davies, the showrunner from 2005 to 2009. He turned
And I just
57.
realized Louise turned 69 on 420, even though they wouldn't write it that way in England.
Well, it's a 420 this
Double
year, no
nice.
matter how you write it. So.
Anyway, happy birthday, David, Camille, Eric, David, Louise, Gerald, Jenna, Russell. God, that's a lot of Davids.
Last week it was all the Peters. This week it's all the Davids.
Apparently, yeah.
Uh,
All right. Kind of how I feel, yep. Anyway, that is all the birthdays. We have no episode news, of course, because all production is at a standstill. But we do have some alumni news.
Okay. For someone no longer involved with Doctor Who, Russell T Davies is sure being prolific during the lockdown. This time, his words are written about the Sarah Jane adventures and addresses the elephant in the room, so to speak. He writes about the funeral of Sarah Jane Smith, assisting him in this by providing the voices of their characters with the narrator, Jacob Dudman, Katie Manning as Jo Jones, Meena Anwar as Geeta Chandra, Rani's mother, Sophie Aldred as Ace, Daniel Anthony as Clyde Langer, Tommy Knight as Luke Smith, and Anjali Mahindra as Rani Chandra. All in all, it makes a bittersweet epilogue to the Sarah Jane adventures.
I shed a couple of tears, I have to admit.
Yeah, same. Although I didn't take into account my own personal recent news before watching this, and I was like, oh shit, that was a mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, is this like is this free or?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's something
Yeah,
that Russell
it's on
wrote,
YouTube.
and they had the narrator read it on a YouTube video, and then the various actors basically did it from their homes, doing their lines.
Okay.
So you got to see what Daniel Anthony currently looks like. He's bulked up a bit. He's gotten a little chubby. Tommy Knight and all of these people. And most of what they were doing was putting in their memories of Sarah Jane. So it was very emotional, and Russell T's very good at doing emotional.
Yeah.
He also mentioned in there Nissa and Tegan as a nice couple from Australia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which does make
Which
me
is-
wonder how Nissa got to Australia from frickin'
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen the same conversation among Big Finish with them saying how they go from older Nissa, wherever the Doctor had left her, to Australia, but same basic question. Either way, not on Earth.
Mm-hmm. So, but either way, I mean, I kind of took that in stride, and
K9 ends up with Ace.
yes, K9 ends up with Ace. So, if they ever bring Ace back for a Doctor Who episode, she might be accompanied by K9.
Pretty please with sugar on
Mm.
top. I pay close
Oh my
attention to
God.
my canine lore. Dang it.
I gotta say, that would be kind of amazing to see K9 show up and he's just got improved weaponry because Ace just loaded him with all this extra shit.
So, yeah, Doctor, I've been tinkering.
Affirmative walks out with a rifle glued to his head. He's just like, no.
Why does he look like the future dog from Secret of Evermore? No! Okay. Anyway, yeah, it's something that's something that if you're a Sarah Jane fan, you should probably watch on YouTube. It does give a conclusion, albeit kind of a sad one, and it's at least gives you that sense of closure anyway. Anyway,
Also kind of frees up the show from ever necessarily having to... I mean,
Deal
they
with
still
it.
could, but yeah.
all right.
Okay, so moving on from that, Doctors Young and Old joined in to the BBC charity show The Big Night In. From Tom Baker to Jodie Whittaker, almost all the surviving doctors joined in for a speech thanking the NHS for which has been under a lot of flack in recent weeks, and rescue workers for their frontline work during the epidemic. They also, of course, asked people to donate to the charity. Noticeably absent from this lineup of doctors were two names: Christopher Eccleston, who played the Ninth Doctor, and David Bradley, who played the First Doctor in Twice Upon a Time. Interestingly enough, in the group was Joe Martin, the still controversial precursor Doctor from Fugitive of the Jadoon. Seems like it might have just been who they could get a hold of.
More than likely.
Yeah, I'm honestly. I mean, I'm not surprised about Eccleston.
Yeah.
He's been kind of reclusive, but I'm surprised they couldn't get Bradley. Since
he's an older gentleman. Well, actually, never mind. They're doing it. They probably did it.
They're doing it from their homes.
Zoom or
they
whatever.
were still doing it from their homes. Yeah,
right. Although
a few of them were doing it from their yards.
I hate to play.
I see Tom is out in the garden. That's lovely.
If he figured out the video chat, but
that might be. But you know, if Tom Baker can figure it out,
yeah. Well, Tom Baker does Big Finish from home these days.
Yeah, true.
But he's apparently given them enough sass that they're sassing them back when they're doing their recordings, though. So they're all having a good chuckle. But the fact that he's doing it from his garden, though.
Yeah, it looked like it was from his garden anyway. The picture.
Somewhere on his yard, yeah.
Yeah. I'm just like, and you know, the thing is that picture they have of him, he looks like horribly old, and then you see him and he doesn't look that bad. It's just a really bad shot of him.
Just a really bad still, yeah.
Yeah, he looks like he looks like that old man on the street corner that you don't want to go near.
Yeah. I guess it's almost kind of like looking at photos of Christopher Eccleston like a couple of years ago and like compared to like last year. Like he looked like he aged significantly, and then more recently has been looking
like he's suddenly just gained his health again. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I don't know. It's that particular still just makes Tom Baker look terrible.
Well, Tom has a new guy to add to his list that he'll never hire for publicity shots.
Yeah. But yeah, I noticed Tennant's aged a little bit too.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, his hairline's gone a little bit further back.
Having kids will do that to you.
Oh, that's true.
He's lucky he doesn't have silver streaks now.
Whereas Colin Baker's actually looking pretty good.
Yeah, Colin Baker's not aged at all in the last 10 years.
No. If you looked at his pictures from about 10 years ago, he looked bad.
Actually, yeah, it looks like he's gotten slightly better.
Yeah. So...
Maybe it's the beard.
It might be the beard, because, yeah, he was looking... he might have also dropped some weight.
That's also a possibility, depending on how active he's been.
All right, let's move on.
All right. Media releases, videos. The BBC has announced a special edition of the second Doctor serial, Power of the Daleks, now to be released in both DVD and Blu-ray. Of course, this serial only exists in an animated version with no complete episodes in existence, and only a few clips. New and improved animation is added to this release, and new special features, including 2 new documentaries about Power of the Daleks, 1993 BBC audio version of The Power of the Daleks, narrated by Tom Baker, raw incidental music, photogrammetry featurette, Wicker's World, I don't like my monsters to have Oedipus complexes, Daleks, The Early Years, a 1992 documentary presented by Peter Davison, Robin Hood, 1953 episode, Patrick Troughton's earliest surviving TV appearance, BBC archive footage from BBC Regional News, BBC Breakfast, Blue Peter, and Newsnight. Previously unreleased animation trailers and animatics. And Easter eggs. This is in addition to the existing special features, including audio commentaries by Anarchy Wills on each episode, animation test footage, photo gallery, including previously unreleased and rediscovered full-color on-set photos from 1966.
Ooh, nice.
Servants and Masters, the making of The Power of the Daleks, and Doctor Who, The Highlanders. This new version is due out in July 6th in the UK, with no news yet on a US release.
I checked Amazon here, and it does not have it listed, so...
So they're saying they're improving the animation again. Okay.
Yep. They're
Hmm.
either replacing or improving the existing anime.
What I'm trying to, I remember Power of the Daleks was released. There was a black and white version and then a color version. Was the original DVD release the black and white version?
I believe you could order either or.
I
Yeah.
believe
so
actually
this
my
isn't-
DVD has
yeah.
both.
So this
Okay.
isn't necessarily the color
Mm.
version. Okay,
I think my DVD either
Yeah.
has both or it's the black and white one.
gotcha.
I think
I thought the color
like
didn't come out until the DVD had already been delivered, but I must have been mistaken.
Yeah, they say authentic black and white visuals as part of the new and improved animation, so it might be the black and white version, which I'm fine with.
Yeah.
I almost just wonder if they have just redone the animation, if it's just like with what they're doing newer ones with, like Macroterror and the Faceless ones.
I'm
if they're just
wondering
using
because they
that.
seem to like those people.
Mm.
That's simply possible, and they haven't really gone back to the others in a while, so maybe it's just that they're feeling like they should just focus on one and allow them to update everything.
Either that or, I think they might try to have them redo all the other older ones too, just so that all the animation has the same continuity style.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to admit, I'm a little curious about those documentaries, considering especially this serial in particular. It was the first Whittaker Dalek story. It was while Terry Nation was off trying to pitch the Dalek show in the United States and
Dalek
everything
Empire,
else.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very curious what ground is covered in those two new documentaries.
I'm still twitching about that. The concept of Star Trek fighting the Daleks would have been interesting, or the Daleks appearing on Lost in Space.
Well, it's a bit problematic for Star Trek because the Borg are just a ripoff of the Cybermen anyway.
We're talking 1966. We're talking the original series, Tim.
Yeah.
We're talking
Well.
about what could have been. Yeah, because that was about 1966-67 when Star Trek and Lost in Space were on the air. That's when he was pitching this idea to American television networks. So I could have seen CBS or NBC going, yeah, why don't we make them make a guest appearance on one of these shows and see how they do? So that could have been interesting to have the Daleks on Star Trek or Lost in Space. Hopefully Star Trek, because Lost in Space wouldn't have done them justice.
And I mean, I feel like the Daleks on Star Trek, it would have been a single episode version of the Daleks. It would have been, Captain Kirk, Spock, McCoy, and some red shirts beam onto Skaro and meet the Falls.
Yeah. Yeah, and that could have done that. It would have been interesting.
Except Kirk probably would have beat the shit out of a Dalek with his bare hands because it's Kirk era Star Trek.
And Spock would have figured out some logical way to beat them because he's Spock.
Yeah.
It still would have been interesting. I mean, it wouldn't be the last time that would happen. If you remember the animated series, Larry Niven took one of his a race from his particular known space series of books, the Kazin, and added them to Star Trek continuity in one particular.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. In fact, they even mention the Slavers, which was a race from his known space stuff.
I remember Slavers in the animated series.
Yeah, that was the same episode. The guys that were racing them were the cat creatures with bad ears that were the Kazin. So, and yeah, they call them by name, the Kazinti, I think they say, and yeah, and that episode was written by Niven. So he basically just took a plot line from one of his books and retooled it for Star Trek. So yeah, they could have done that with the Daleks. It would have been interesting to see where that would have taken off, because then you would have had Doctor Who with Daleks in England and Star Trek with Daleks in America. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the 80s would have brought Doctor Who to America, and people would have seen the Daleks and go, aren't these from Star Trek? It would have been interesting.
That'd be
But-
a heck of a weird headspace canon.
Mm-hmm. It would have, and that brought together, it would have probably had led to a combined universe where Doctor Who and Star Trek existed at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have been interesting, especially keeping that in mind going into New Who, because that would have been probably the BBC and Paramount talking to each other. Also might have made the 96 movie a completely different animal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Roads less taken.
Anywho,
right.
that was quite a ramble.
Yeah, but that was an interesting one. It wasn't completely off topic.
Yeah. Okay. We also have some news from Candy Jar Books. Candy Jar Books has released another free Lucy Wilson story. In Sweet Revenge, Lucy has to deal with aliens not following lockdown protocols. Sweet Revenge is available, and Randy's thing is to download from the Candy Jar Books website.
Sorry about that. All right. So yeah, that's the second Lucy Wilson short story that deals with aliens breaking lockdown, and I'm like, okay. Apparently, that's what's on everybody's mind.
Lockdowns.
Pretty much.
Yep.
All right, so that brings us to our Big Finish news. Big Finish has released not one, but 2 new volumes of Class. A total of 6 episodes have been released for the spin-off, including The Sower's Ditch by Carl Rowans, Catfish by Kate Thorman, Sweet Nothings by Michael Dennis, Mock by Alfie Shaw, The Creeper by Lizzie Hopley, and Queen of Rhodia by Blair Mowat. I probably mispronounced at least one of those.
Probably.
Class Volumes 3 and 4 are available to own now at £19.99 each as a limited edition CD box set. Although I believe Big Finish is currently not shipping CDs due to requiring people to be in
but they'll
person at
ship
the
them.
warehouse to do that.
They'll be shipping them after lockdown.
Yeah, so sometime in 2022, I'm guessing. Or £16.99 on download from the Big Finish website.
Which is how you get it now.
Yep. And as as we mentioned the last 2 podcasts, although it's been a while, so you might have forgotten, Big Finish has decided to give people something to listen to while they're on lockdown or social distancing. Every Monday, a new story or episode from a box set will be made available to download from Big Finish website's weekly deals page. These stories can be unlocked by anyone who has a free Big Finish account and played on the Big Finish app, which is also free to install. Each story will be available for 1 week only and comes accompanied by a variety of discounts related to the particular story. We actually timed this well because last week was not a Doctor Who one, so we wouldn't have been talking about it. Whereas this week's free title is Doctor Who 1001 Nights Part 1 of an anthology story, written by Emma Beebe and Gordon Rennie, and starring Alexander Siddig, Nadim Sawala, and Malcolm Tierney.
None of these names I know except for Alexander Siddig, and if you don't know who he is, he was Dr. Bashir on Deep Space Nine.
Ooh.
Where he was originally listed as Siddig Al-Fadil, but he changed his name, I think, about halfway through the series. Because people were having trouble saying his last name.
He was also in Game of Thrones for a short amount of time.
Very briefly, I think.
Mm.
His character didn't live very long, but, it's Game of
Yeah.
Thrones. But people will know him best as Dr. Bashir. He still looks good, by the way. Considering the fact that he did Deep Space Nine, like 30 years ago. He's still easily recognizable as Bashir.
Mm.
Is there anything else he was in that...
Well, I'm looking through his thing, and apparently he played Ra's al Ghul in
Gotham. That's right. I knew he was from something else. Yeah, that's right. Season 3 and 4 of Gotham, he was Ra's al Ghul. All right. So, And our final piece of news, the BBC has teamed up with Penguin Random House, Doctor Who Magazine, Titan Comics, Escape Hunt, Big Finish Productions, Eagle Moss Hero Collector, Immersive Everywhere, and Maze Theory to create a gigantic multi-platform multimedia event labeled The Time Lord Victorious. It will involve the 9th, 10th, and 11th Doctors going back to the Dark Times to fight a brand new alien threat. This will begin its release later this year, and info can be found on DoctorWho.tv. Now, this leads directly into our Breaking the Rumor Mill article, and that is the fact that immediately upon posting this, rumors has been circulating that this means that Chris Eccleston is returning, is actually going to be returning to his role, signing on to Big Finish, etc. No.
If that were true, it would have been the initial headline.
Yeah, it would have been. Big Finish would have had that posted in big freaking news articles. All it means is that the character of the 9th Doctor will be there. Mind you, Titan Comics makes comics.
Yep.
Penguin Random House and BBC Books make books.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure they've all had the 9th Doctor all this time.
And when Big Finish uses the 9th Doctor, they have somebody voice him like Nick Briggs, unfortunately.
Nick Briggs is great for monster voices, but he really can't imitate most of the other actors.
He's not an impressionist.
Now I'm wondering, have they ever had Billy Piper try to do an Eccleston impression? Because a lot of the companions have done that.
I don't know. I can't remember of Billy Piper doing one, but she might have.
I mean, I know she hasn't done as many Big Finish as a lot of companions, so probably not, but...
I couldn't tell you for certain. We'd have to go through the Big Finish library.
Right.
Which I seriously don't feel like doing.
Yeah, especially not in the middle of a broadcast.
So anyway, if you see somebody saying that Chris Eccleston is returning and using this as their basis, kindly tell them no.
No.
Sorry.
I mean, they're using his likeness in advertising because that's what the 9th Doctor looks like.
Correct.
That doesn't mean
kindly tell
he's
them to
coming
reuse
back.
their shunt technology to shunt off.
And point them at the 9th Doctor adventures from Big Finish, which are always narrated by like Nick Briggs or somebody else.
Or that new person that's been doing all the different voices. I don't know his name. But
Shrug.
The impressionist that they hired?
Yeah.
The guy
The
from
one they
Dead
used to
Ringers?
tell the anecdote. Yes, exactly that one.
Yeah.
The one that used to call people and pretend to be Tom Baker.
Yep, I'm trying to remember
The Dead
who that
Ringers
was.
guy, yeah, I can't think of his name right now.
I think it was John Holmes, maybe. Anyway. Yeah. Because I knew it was John something, and John Holmes seems to be the Dead Ringer guy for most of this. So, as far as I'm aware, that's who it is. Anyway, moving on, we have a piece of geek talk.
Not exactly a new
like...
release, I see.
Well, I don't think anything I was going to be covering would have been newish unless I got around to watching that the newest Pixar movie, Onward, since they've just fast-tracked it to Disney+.
John
feels less guilty about finishing the Orville season 2 for next week.
John Colshaw, that's the guy.
That's the one.
Yeah. But yeah, I like either this weekend gone or the weekend before. It would have been the weekend before. I just decided to buy a bunch of Blu-rays because they had like a 2-for-1. Well, not 2-for-1, but like buy 2 get 1 free thing going. So I made it buy 4 get 2. And one of those was The Producers, and like the original 1967 Producers, not the adaptation of the stage musical version from like 10 or so
The movie
years
turned
ago.
into a stage play, turned into a musical, or it turned into a movie.
Turned into a
Yeah.
game.
But yeah, it was so interesting to be either reminded or just actually, yeah, it would have been reminded that this was Mel Brooks's first movie, because holy shit, this is a good movie. Like, it's kind of a like, and this is like Gene Wilder's second film role ever, and his first like major role. And it's just like, holy shit, this is like, I give Mel Brooks a lot of credit. This is like a very damn good effort for what was basically a first try. I feel like, oh god, like, it's funny because when you get to the stuff with the gay stage director and drag, I'm just like, no, here we go. This is probably gonna annoy me. And to a point, it was like, but he's done worse. Mel Brooks has done worse. I mean, he's
Far
thrown
worse.
around. Yeah.
Oh, boys.
So yeah. So it's like, comparatively, how he's treated queer characters and other stuff he's done, this is nothing by comparison. But yeah, like, everyone's just going for it. The dialogue's very good. Yeah, just honestly, if you've never seen this before, go watch it. It's like, it's also weird. Like, I completely forgot that this was technically a late 60s movie, so it's like, holy shit. Yeah, this is like, yeah, this, just go, like, if you're a fan of Mel Brooks movies and you've never seen this, go watch it. It is absolutely worth it. It's so funny because it just shows, though, that I have like both the bits and pieces I've seen or heard of from the musical version kind of skewed my expectations of some things that were going to be in this. And then I was like, oh, okay, no, that's just, they added stuff for the other version, which is funny because apparently Mel Brooks wrote the initial version of the stage version as well.
He felt there's more material he could add.
Well, I think it was like, it was supposed to be someone else, and then they had to back out due to either illness or scheduling shit, so he was just brought on to do it. And he was like, oh, okay. But yeah, like, it's okay. That was a funny thing to find out. It was kind of amazing to, oh my god, what's his name? Fucking
Zero Mostel. Orson Welles.
It was interesting to find out that the guy who was originally going to be playing the crazy Nazi who wrote Springtime for Hitler was apparently supposed to be Dustin Hoffman. Which I'm like, you know what? I don't think that would have worked. So thankfully he just, he went and did The Graduate instead. Because apparently, like, in the thing I was watching, there's like a behind the scenes doco on the Blu-ray, and it's just like, he was signed on to do this, and it's like, hey, can you let me go do this audition? And it ended up being for The Graduate, so he dropped out of this to be in The Graduate.
And I bet he's still kicking himself over that decision after all this
Oh,
time.
I bet he's not.
I don't know. He got pretty good notice out of that movie.
Yeah, but like, I can't see him playing the Nazi anyway, so the guy they got is like perfect. Like, pretty much, I guess that's the other thing. Like, everyone is basically perfect for whatever role they were given. It's kind of amazing. Just like, the cast is great, the dialogue's pretty good, just everything.
That's kind of be a downer, though. Like, sir, you are the perfect Nazi. Oh man.
Oh,
It's like-
you think that's bad? Someone out of Illinois played Hitler like 3 times in 3 different movies. But by the way, we're at 6 minutes.
Springtime for Hitler and Germany.
Mm.
Winter for Poland and I remember the
Yeah.
songs. I don't remember the plot. I have seen the movie. It has been like decades. Like I think it was somewhere in the early 90s when I did my massive Mel Brooks watch through.
Mm.
And I think that was the only time I saw that one.
Mm. Yeah, this is like one of the few Mel Brooks movies I think I've seen. Like, I was basically raised on Spaceballs.
I was raised on Blazing Saddles.
Yeah, I've seen Blazing Saddles.
Spaceballs, and Young Frankenstein. Matter of fact, my aunts tried to get me to watch Young Frankenstein. The first scene spooked me, but I was only like 5 years old.
Spaceballs, Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, and Dracula Dead and Loving It. And Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Robin Hood Men in Tights I saw occasionally on TV, but our video store had History of the World Part 1. By the way, we're at 7 minutes now.
Yeah, like if you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth checking out.
All right. Good on that then.
All right. So I'm going to warn you guys, this rant may get into foul mouth level, like Carlin levels. And it may be something I've ranted about before, but it never fails to piss me off. And that is, of course, you might notice the weather's changing outside and it's going into springtime.
Mm-hmm.
With springtime, out comes the biker assholes. I'm not talking about people in motorcycles. I'm talking about people on mountain bikes, city bikes, all those other little 10-speed bicycles.
I saw the title and thought it was a biker gang thing, and I'm like, please don't put us on a hit list. Please don't put us on a hit list.
Nope. I mean these people
We don't
that
need Satan's Angels in here, please.
I mean these freaking assholes that can't figure out whether they're a motor vehicle or a pedestrian vehicle and choose whichever one seems to situate them best at the moment. These people don't pay attention to things like red lights. They can't decide whether they should be driving or whether they should be riding their little pieces of crap on the sidewalk or in the middle of the fucking road. And what's further pissed me off is there are specific biker rules that people are supposed to use, like hand signals. Remember hand signals?
I do. I don't know why
You
everyone else forgets.
You stick your left hand out to make a left turn. You stick your left hand out and up to make a right turn. And
I remember when
down at an angle to slow down.
When for 3 months I had a signal out in my car, I used hand signals every time I turned.
You know when the last time I saw someone on a bike do a hand signal was? 1991. You know who did it? Me.
You jackasses.
So I'm out there driving back from the store, and some asshole on a bike goes from the basically not the median, the breakdown lane, or the basically the side of the road, and decides to make a left turn without signaling right into traffic right in front of me. Excuse me, but this is like wanting to commit suicide. Mm-hmm. I'm in a 2-ton van with, not the worst brakes, but certainly not the best on the road.
Questionable brakes. Sometimes questionable brakes.
And they're on a freaking bike that I could lift with one hand. This wouldn't go good for them. But yet these little assholes think they're immortal.
Bloody brain damaged yuppie hipsters on bikes.
Furthermore, they did this right at a red light.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Someone's just screaming to die.
Yeah. So, these people need to learn the rules of the road and stop trying to piss everybody off. Choose whether you're a pedestrian or a motor vehicle and fucking stick with it. Or better yet, fucking stay in the freaking bike paths. Or you know what? Get a fucking car! I'm done now. Okay.
Next week, Randy is going to rant about trailers.
I don't have a caravan rant yet.
I'm
All
waiting till
right.
you get to
Fucking caravans.
hovercrafts.
Only thing good
I
about
would actually
caravans
have
is dropping them.
Okay, so that takes us to our episode. Here I thought one of you might be trying to defend bikes, and I would be like, no.
No, I've
might
seen
be-
the
I want
morons.
to ride my
I
bicycle.
can definitely defend
I
bikes
want
in that if
to
they,
ride my
if you
bike.
observe the rules of the road, they're perfectly fine to use.
I
Yes, but
want
nobody
Um,
does here.
Yeah.
They all feel like
Yeah.
they're privileged freaking. Oh, I'm building up again. Nope.
And then they wonder why
I mean,
there's
I've-
so many
I-
bike accidents around here.
Everyone
had
stand
plenty of
back,
time-
it's gonna blow.
I've had plenty of times also where I'm walking on a sidewalk before I got my current car, and there's a bike lane right there, but they would much rather they don't want to stop at the red light or the stop sign, so they just decide they're a pedestrian and drive onto the sidewalk. And I have to jump out of
Exactly
the
my
way.
point. Exactly my point. Even when you make designated areas for them, they still choose not to obey those rules.
Yep.
Which is why you
Okay.
need to pull out a lead pipe and stick it in the spokes. Launch.
Part of the reason why I want my van to come equipped with photon torpedoes. Oh, look at the biker there making an illegal turn. Dead!
Get back into your lane. You have 10 seconds to comply.
Okay, all right. Purged. All right.
Thanks, Ed 209.
Right, let's get into the episode summary. It's about time.
Yep. Alrighty. And I'm going to be doing the summary this week. So, Randy, you'll have to pull out the backup watch.
Yep, give me just a moment. Gotta open up a tab. For whatever reason, I cannot put stopwatch. Like, I cannot link it directly from Google. I have to search for it every time because otherwise it doesn't come up. Anyway, I have it ready.
Okay.
You ready to go?
Yep. Give me a countdown.
3, 2, 1, go.
All right. We begin the episode with the doctor and companions at the center console when suddenly there's a loud, thunderous crashing sound and everyone is immediately knocked to all four corners of the room. So, I almost ruined it already. Barbara's the first one to wake up. Soon after her is Susan, and eventually Ian wakes up as well as the doctor. The doctor has possibly suffered the worst, having apparently some sort of laceration on his head. And both he and Susan are suffering some sort of neck and head pain, which is slightly worse than the other two. They can't seem to figure out what's quite going on, and whenever they try to check outside, they keep seeing weird, fast previous images, and then it's finished up with a weird pullout that suddenly ends in an explosion. The doctor periodically throughout decides that maybe it's Ian and Barbara that's doing something to mess with the TARDIS, but he's repeatedly proven wrong yet again, as things keep popping up that obviously were beyond their control. And Susan also does have a momentary freak out with a pair of scissors a couple of times, and they manage to wrestle her away from them safely. What eventually comes about is that they realize time has suddenly stopped wherever they are, and somehow they're on borrowed time. Eventually, it does come back, and they're trying to figure out what's actually going on when they look at the images that pop up in the view scanner while there's still nothing outside. Finally, after looking at things again and seeing the big explosion, the doctor comes to a realization. They apparently have gone so far backwards that they are at the beginning of the universe, and he's trying to figure out how this managed to happen. He then starts to question what he pushed, and going over the console, they realize that he pushed the fast rewind button, apparently, to hopefully go back to a previous state and hopefully find Earth in the more modern time and get Ian and Barbara back to London. What instead he finds out is that when they check it again, the button is still stuck down. The doctor pulls the apparatus apart really quickly, finds that the spring is not working the way it's supposed to, reverses the spring, puts everything back together, and soon enough the TARDIS powers back up naturally and is finally moving away from the beginning of the universe, and is freely allowed to go back to where it can, thus ending the conflict and also forcing the Doctor to later apologize to Barbara, of whom he had a particularly harsh verbal fight with, as he was planning to threaten to toss them out of the TARDIS wherever they happened to be at the time. And they end with the finding of a big footprint as they are now somewhere up high in the snow, and something unusually big apparently is lumbering around outside. The end.
All right, you did that in 3 minutes, 8 seconds.
I got 7, so that's relatively close.
But you did say something wrong. They never stated the beginning of the universe. They mentioned the beginning of the solar system.
Or so something
At the
like
very
those
least,
lines.
a solar system, yeah.
Yeah. Whether it's the system they're in or wherever that was, we don't know. But yeah. So it was more like the formation of, wasn't the formation of the universe, but the formation of that galaxy, that local area, etc. So. No, we don't get to event 1 until the beginning of the 5th Doctor. All right, so let's talk about what we liked about the episode. And Matt, you're also first.
Oh gosh, I'm first. Oh gosh, what to go with for best overall thing? I find it really interesting to see these characters at the strange straining point where they're still dealing with the Doctor not being the kindly grandfather that we'd like to remember him as. He's still very unsure about his constant visitors and is ready to, almost on a whim at times, to just throw them out of TARDIS and be done with them.
Yeah, this is what, the 3rd story?
Technically, this is the 3rd story, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, is that everything, Matt?
That about covers it. It's just it's a really interesting look at this particular group to see them so frictional, especially early on.
Yeah, I mean, all they've been through was, 10,000 BC and the Daleks after this, so yeah.
Yep.
They're
and
not
a
exactly
lot of their
fully
arguing actually
trusted.
brought points from both, so yeah.
Yep, all right, Tim.
I really liked the premise of the TARDIS leaving them clues to figure out what was going on the best way it could, because it couldn't, since it didn't exactly have, scan out, read it, it's type out, it's look, dumbass, check the button, or... But, so I thought that was a unique storytelling device.
All right, well, this is the first case that we've actually gotten the hints that the TARDIS was, alive and somewhat sentient in a way. Something that would later would be ignored more or less until the 5th season, or the first series in 2005. Although the TARDIS talking, there was a couple of times where the TARDIS would talk to K9, and
or
Otherwise,
the
yeah,
Doctor would generally refer to the act as if the TARDIS was alive, regardless of.
Yeah, but mind you, he did that in the same way that Han Solo talked to the Millennium Falcon.
Sure.
That and just the general fact of the TARDIS showing up where it wanted to show up and not where the Doctor wanted it to. But that was usually treated as a malfunction, not as a feature.
Usually.
Yeah, it wasn't until the new Who where they really addressed that. All right, Bill.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something about it, I just like how complete batshit it is. It reminds me so much of Z grade cinema, and just it's so different from your standard 60s era Doctor Who episode, and I love it for that.
Yeah. The closest thing I can compare this to is this actually gave me Kinder vibes in a way. To a point. Obviously a much smaller scale, but the whole slowly going insane sort of shit.
I can see that.
All right. Well, actually, you were next, Thomas.
Hmm.
Is that what you have to say?
Uh, I guess I just like the fact that at the end of it, there's still like not. It's not just like, oh, everything's fine suddenly. Like you have that shot where Barbara's just sitting there, like just staring off into nothing. Like
that was what I was going to say. Yeah. Is the fact that it's not just okay. Well, that's done. On to our next adventure. Barbara is still emotionally hurt by it.
That was kind of the doctor's reaction, though. Like, yep, it's all done.
Yeah, and Ian gets over it relatively quickly.
Mm.
But then again, he also has a laugh at the doctor's expense shortly thereafter. So
Barbara though takes a little longer to get over it. She's still over it by the end of the episode, but at least it's not like, okay, that's over with. Yeah. And I guess I can say what I liked about it, especially in the first part, really had kind of the suspense thriller feel to it, especially with Susan.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure what's up with Susan, and she's, going a little psycho and
a little psycho, literally.
yeah.
Was that before? Yeah, it was before the podcast we were talking about. We could have used the psycho sting for the bump.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm honestly surprised Matt didn't think about that.
I didn't think about it until we were discussing it. By then, it was a little late.
All right. So, what did you dislike about it?
Oh, what did I dislike about it? I guess as a general thing, it seemed kind of obvious to me, at least. But then again, that's being a third party watching this. It seemed very obvious that Barbara and Ian were as clueless as anyone else, and I don't know why the finger keeps getting pointed at them all the time.
Probably because they're the newbies and the interlopers.
I suppose.
Yeah,
but still.
It was meant to be like a mystery thing where they're preying off of one another's suspicions and biases and such.
And remember that Susan's the doctor's granddaughter, so they have a bond there.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, she's the one that's acting the worst out of all of them.
Yeah, but
right.
She's half amnesiac and paranoid. Yeah.
Yeah, and conveniently,
she's the only one who tries to stab anybody.
Yeah, and conveniently, the doctor's never around when she tries to do that. So.
All right, was that everything?
That's pretty much my thing, yeah.
Okay, Tim?
I thought the acting across the was rather subpar. Not that they were helped by some of the dialogue they had. I especially didn't like Chesterton, William Russell's performance. Like some of his line readings is like, "She fainted. She was okay a minute ago." It's like, wow.
I think that was meant to be on purpose.
I think that in particular was on purpose. He was just
that was during the time where he was just like
himself.
He was like, Susan who? Susan Foreman?
Like,
yeah, all of them were suffering memory issues when they would first wake up.
Yeah, I think like to latch onto what Tim's going for. I think it's like some of them do it as over the top as like Susan can get. She's doing the crazy thing fine. Barbara, when she has a few freakouts, is fine. But William Russell is just kind of like, I don't know what he's going for. Half the time, it's like, is he supposed to be just kind of like he just took some downers, or like what?
Well, he does complain of being dizzy.
The TARDIS roofied him.
So what you're saying is that the TARDIS is actually the consciousness of Bill Cosby.
Oh, God.
That's a sore wound.
1963. Where is that compared to Bill Cosby's career?
I think he's out of the
sitcom.
I think he was just starting at that point.
He might have just been starting stand up.
Yep. Although I think that was closer to the late 60s.
Yeah, so he might
Anyway.
have still been working through the athletics thing that he was originally doing.
Anyway, Bill.
Oh, it's me. So my only real point of contention with this episode is that the Doctor never really gets a good telling off. And that's partially a flaw of this particular TARDIS crew. I mean, Ian and Barbara will stand up to the Doctor from time to time, but I don't think they ever, like, properly call him out. You know, eventually they're always like, oh, you know, he's a darling old man or whatever. And they never really, like, you're being an asshole. You have been an asshole. You really need to account for it. And instead, he's just like, well, naturally, you know, I was an asshole. You know, it was the thing to do at the time. We need to move past it and not dwell on it. And
Well, also remember, he's the only one that knows how to steer the ship.
yeah, but any other, you know, it's, and that's, I mean, and yeah, you can, I mean, and this is partially the fact that they barely know him as well, but still, just the fact that, like, he's just, you know, threatens to throw them out into the void, and they don't even be like, yeah, you need to legitimately, honestly apologize, and not just be like, well, give that bullshit non-apology. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
I understand it a little bit. Like I said, he's the only one that can pilot the ship. If they're not nice to them, he won't eventually bring them home.
Mm-hmm.
But they later on, and they also don't know him that well.
Yeah.
Plus, this is early Doctor, so
yeah, he's very mercurial at this point.
Right.
So they never know what'll set him off. So they're basically walking on eggshells around him.
And I mean, and like I said, this whole TARDIS crew,
Uh-huh.
because even if Susan's personality was a little bit more like some of the later companions, she could have done that on her own, and she has no fear. Well, she has no fear that he's going to leave her in the middle of nowhere. But look how that actually works out.
Well.
But you know, he's not going to retaliate against her the same way. But she's still, like, she speaks up for them, but not firmly, to the point of actually like pushing for an honest apology.
Oh, she was.
But all the things you said are true more at this point of the series than they are at any other point of the series. So it's not like those are invalid points. It's still just annoying.
All right, Thomas.
All I can really think of is just that some of the dialogue's a bit like, most of it, like most everything else is kind of fine, and I'll pretty much forgive any line flubs because, you know, they just didn't have,
Because they had to do it all in one take.
Yeah, and honestly, there's not that many. There's like maybe like 2 or 3 from Hartnell, and that's about it.
Yeah, he forgets how to say destruction for a moment.
But yeah, like that aside, it's just like some dialogue that it's like, some of this could have used some tweaking, but otherwise, so it's more of a nitpick.
All right. For me, what bothered me the most is the amount of time I spent not knowing what the hell was going on and none of it making any real sense. I mean, I didn't need to put the pieces together, but the whole idea of why the hell they all were knocked out and were acting weird never was really explained. Where Susan stopped suddenly becoming psychopathic was never, it just suddenly happened. Why it started her acting that way in the first place is never fully explained. Yeah, it's there's a lot of stuff in there that's just loose ended. And it that kind of bothers me. But, you know, I guess I can understand it based on the fact that how hastily this was put together. Still doesn't mean I like it.
Yeah. Like, it is kind of funny how at the end it's just like, oh, whoops, it was just this one thing that was fucked. That screwed us over the whole time.
Mhm. All right. And I guess, yeah, the fast return just brought them, and if they had held it like that, they actually would have gotten back to 1963 London. They were probably there briefly,
Right.
but the button was still held down, so they kept going.
We need a fast forward button now.
All right, so favorite scene.
Favorite scene. I'm going to go with when the Doctor finally figures out what's going on. All of a sudden, the lights go dim. Everyone's knocked back with another rock of the TARDIS, and he's just like, "I got it!" And he just starts going into detail of what all the evidence seems to be pointing to, and it literally looks like the lights dimmed with a spotlight literally on him and the console as he's finally putting it all together.
Is that the scene where like he describes what's happening on the screen on the monitor?
A little bit, some of it, yeah.
Oh,
That's
damn
a
it.
good scene.
Yeah, that's a good scene.
Tim agreed.
All right. Well, Tim, you've got to pick another scene. What scene?
I love the scenes with the vending machine that apparently only gives out milk and water.
I was trying to find that on Google image search and I couldn't find it.
This, apparently that is some high-end water and some high-end,
And as people have observed after the fact, this advanced ancient society, and one of the two staples in the TARDIS is bovine lactation from Earth.
Yes. And I love how it's dispensed in bags. Which is very cutting edge.
The thing is, they were very big on explaining how basic stuff happened in the TARDIS at this time. Because wasn't it like an episode before where Ian was hungry and they basically gave them these little cubes?
Yep.
That tasted like bacon and eggs? So how do we know that's really milk and not just something flavor wheeled to be milk?
I find more amusing that by the time the Sixth Doctor rolls in, they actually legit have a room that's technically a buffet.
I'm waiting for the scene where a companion eats a pill and then they start swelling up like a blueberry.
Hog.
Well,
as soon as you brought that up, I was like, wait a minute.
Considering how much the Sixth Doctor liked his food, especially his fish, I'm pretty sure he had a kitchen put into the TARDIS at some point.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I said, I'm pretty sure by the end of the Sixth Doctor run, they have a buffet going on in that place.
They're like, where do you want the kitchen, Doctor? Oh, it looks at the blueprint. I want it here, but that's where the swimming pool is. Then move the swimming pool to the library.
Not the library again.
Now you're
We can't go into the first episode without you bringing out the swimming pool of the library.
Are we antagonizing Randy with this every podcast now?
So help me God, Tim. I will break lockdown and hunt you down. It'll be like the fucking Shining, man.
Newsflash, everyone in the New York, stay in your homes. There's a wild, crazy Randy. He's out in the streets. Where is he?
Come
Wielding
and
a
get
machete.
your medicine, Tim.
I'm sorry, that opportunity was too good to pass up.
All right, where were we before Tim decided to try to piss me off worse?
I think it's my wait. Yeah, Matt went first, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's my turn. Assuming Tim was done.
I'm done. Yeah.
Okay. So given the scenes that are left, I think I'm going to go with the scene where Susan apologizes to Barbara. Because it partially addresses what I was talking about before. It's very much in character. it kind of it's kind of a way of showing that Susan is back to like being Susan and not being possessed. And I also just think it was a touching, like, human, quote unquote, human moment between the two characters that just, is very in character for them and shows their developing relationship.
All right. Thomas?
I was gonna go with something else, but honestly, screw it. I'm just gonna go with Susan going nuts and attacking the bed. Yeah, because she like that actress is just committed. She's just going for it.
All right. So I think my favorite scene is the doctor explaining to Susan how a spring works.
That's some hardcore Mr. Wizard, Bill Nye type science.
Well,
there.
you got to have some edutainment even in the bottle episode.
I'm coiling the spring sprite.
Yeah, at least they didn't involve Clippy the paperclip. That's all I can say. Oh, you need to unstick a spring. Would you like some help with that?
Although,
No,
for that matter, they could have given a science lecture about how gases came together and formed the solar system. That might have upset the church, though.
Well, they kind of very briefly touched on it.
That you're standing on a planet.
That's revolving. That's evolving. Revolving at 900 miles an hour.
Yeah, let's not go into the whole song. All right, so what's your least favorite scene, Matt?
Oh, least favorite scene. The most awkward scene actually for me is going to have to be where the doctor just suddenly comes out with, I assume it's tea. Actually, no, he admitted it was like some sort of sleeping medicine. But basically, all of a sudden, he just he's going from, I accuse you two of you, you two are totally responsible for this.
And
Would you like a drink?
Snap of a finger.
Yeah, his snap of a finger. He suddenly steps out of the room and comes back with drinks for everybody.
It's like he's yelling at them. You look away, you look back, where's the doctor? And he's already got 4 cups of tea in his hand.
All right. Tim?
My least favorite scene is the end of the first episode where the doctor starts getting strangled by Ian. And like Randy said, that's just sort of like no-ended, because it's never explained why Ian was trying to strangle the doctor. Or at least I never heard the explanation.
Actually, it wasn't just strangling him. I think he had the scissors in his hands again.
No, I think it was just if you can even call it strangling. It looked more like he just had his hands on his shoulder.
No, I'm pretty sure he dropped the scissors again.
Anyway, there's
all right.
Plot point that just dropped without explanation.
All right,
just
Bill?
giving him an excuse to point the finger.
So this is least favorite scene. So this should surprise no one with what I'm talking about, and I'm not necessarily saying that it's poorly written. It's just annoying. An annoying trait that exists is when the doctor is brushing off his by accusing you, I made you work harder to save us, and therefore accusing you was the right thing to do. And I'm like, fuck you.
Is that what he was going with? It sounded more like he was
that's the explanation he gives at one point, and it's
at one point
clear
that's more or less his explanation.
It's a justification. It's not why he did it, but it's a justification why he shouldn't have to apologize. And it's one of the reasons why at this point he's not the doctor yet.
Yeah. Yeah, very early the first doctor's not quite the doctor.
All right, Thomas?
I'm gonna go with the scene where Barbara's like tending to turning to Ian, and then turns away, and then he starts sort of strangling her from behind, and everyone just kind of stops. Like, for a second, I honestly thought, wait, did time just, like, literally stop, and that's why no one's doing anything? And it's like, no, the doctor's just kind of watching her be strangled, and then just letting her, deal with it herself, rather than actually intervening.
I do recall he had a look of what the hell.
Yeah, he's just he's like right there looking at them and just like not doing anything. And Susan's like off in the distance, just kind of looking around. And it's just like, okay, wait, what? You would think the doctor would be doing something? Cool, because it's like, oh, well, clearly they're not, I think that's kind of what's supposed to snap him into like, oh, okay. So if he's going to do that to her, clearly they're not in cahoots against us, but still kind of like, oh, shit, I should probably actually do something, but he never does.
Well, literally all Barbara has to do is turn around and calm him down again, but yeah.
Well, yeah.
All right. So mine is, I think it's the point where they all wake up and all of them have amnesia. And the odds of that are not that good.
Mm.
And I mean, some of them have it for like 10, 15 seconds, and then some of them are like out of it for like the entire thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
seriously?
Susan's pretty out of it until like the last half of the second episode.
At least none of them forgot that they were a vampire.
Of course, I do find it funny that it's until Ian wakes up that suddenly Barbara's like, oh wait, we're in the TARDIS. It's like, she wasn't questioning that before?
Apparently
it's like,
not.
where are we?
It just seems so yeah. It's just one of those things that I'm just like, really? All of them?
If anyone, I would understand it more with Susan. She basically got her face smashed right into the console.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's kind of funny that the doctor doesn't have it at all, considering he's the worst one, like, physically out of it.
And I noticed that this is the first time that they check the doctor's pulse, and this is the first time that they've only mentioned he has one heart. Or they don't, or that the two hearts, of course, that when people say go against there's no continuity. The first thing they talk about is this episode and the fact that, oh yeah, remember you only had one heart back then. Well, he got hurt so hard, maybe one wasn't working at the time.
That's the same possibility. The other possibility is that they just put the hand on his chest, so it could be that they only felt for the one heart and thought that was normal.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't the fan explanation these days that just like, because as of the canon at this point he hadn't regenerated, the idea is retroactively that like Hartnell's doctor had one heart, and then when he changed to Troughton he had two. Or was Troughton always
I remember
described
there's a really
as
old
having
rumor
one?
about that, but I'm not sure that's holding water.
Yeah,
that's basically an after-the-fact justification.
Yeah,
it's them
like
trying
a fan explanation.
Yeah, it's basically them trying to.
It's the
other two
Doctor
explanations
Who
we have are better ones, to be honest.
It's the Doctor Who equivalent of when Star Wars writers said that the reason why the lightsabers kept flickering in the original movie was because red lightsabers have a disrupting power.
Really, it was just that the filament of the lightsaber they were trying to rely on at the time was not really good with the camera.
Right.
Which is why
I think it was whenever they struck each other
afterwards,
it was when they struck each other that they flickered. They weren't very good at hitting each other.
All right, so I guess that takes us up to our final thoughts. And Matt, you're first.
Final thoughts. This is an interesting story. I will say that there's some questionable things going on with the way some of the characters act. But I will say for the hurried story that it is, it's not terrible, and at least it's based on some interesting ideas that could possibly happen depending on how you look at things a certain way. But it's not flawless, but it's definitely a very interesting episode, and I do occasionally remember the better parts of this episode quite a bit.
All right, Tim.
I thought this episode had some odd bits in it with the acting choices, the dialogue, like the presentation of amnesia, and there were some things that I just have to really seriously question. And I admit that this is me questioning it from like the 21st century in my modern day. But the fact that there's a button on the TARDIS that is reliant on a spring is that's a bit of a pill for me to swallow.
You know, I could see it in like some of the new Who TARDISes where, you know, things had been kind of piecemeal together. But yeah.
I think that's definitely part of it fits perfectly with what is definitely a retcon. I'm sure they never had this in mind in the 60s, but the idea that the TARDIS was basically slated for demolition because it was such an antique.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like a lot of that comes from this episode.
Also, I can't help but think, and this shows the character development of the Doctor himself, that if this was a story of a later Doctor, the Doctor would have figured out what was wrong a lot sooner than they did. Like, they wouldn't have to go through the whole process of, like, clues and stuff. Is, like, the Doctor would... One of the first things, like, a new Who Doctor would say is, like, okay, what's the last button I pressed? You know?
I feel like some of the doctors
did I
definitely
turn it
would
off
have...
and on?
I feel like some of the doctors definitely would have forgotten who they were for half the episode. Here's looking at you, 8th Doctor, with your constant amnesia.
Who am I?
No, not again.
Well, and then there's a couple of doctors that smack his head on the console like that and suddenly regenerate.
Oh, shit.
We're looking at you, 6th Doctor.
They retconned it. They retconned it.
If this episode had been like a longer, it would have been fun for them to have like explored the whole amnesia thing throughout the entire episode.
I don't know.
But-
Well, this would be the first case of it. It gets old quick.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would have gone for the whole amnesia shtick for much longer than they did.
Mhm.
All
But
right.
overall, I'd say this was an okay episode, but very, very uneven.
All right. Bill?
So I know that my opinion is a little biased because I watched the Doctor's wife before I watched this. So the entire concept of the TARDIS being a telepathic being with no mouth to communicate its feelings was already firmly in my head before I ever got to this episode. That said, I still just love it. I mentioned I love the chaos of it. It brings back to mind so many, movies and other things. It kind of fits again with the premise of this, basically trapped, almost godlike, not quite godlike being that has no way of communicating itself other than to leak chaos into the room. The premise the cause, the end of the episode, it makes sense. I'm not going to say it's a flawless solution, but it's definitely makes sense for TV logic as to, yeah, sure, that button getting stuck could cause this sort of problem. I think it comes together nicely. It was a great kind of patch up for needing to stick 2 more episodes at the end of the Daleks, and I just enjoy this episode.
All right. Thomas?
Oh yeah, like it's so funny because to me this is like as I said earlier, the only thing I can compare this to of all the Doctor Who stuff I've watched is Kinder, and a similar vein to that. Like when we did the podcast for that, I remember seeing that Kinder would have been interesting to see as like it could have almost worked as a stage production. This absolutely could. You only need 4 people, very limited sets. I would actually love to see them when all this pandemic shit's over. Get David Bradley, get some people to play Susan, Ian, and Barbara. Tweak it to,
Add a couple
like,
of musical numbers.
and like, this could honestly work as a very small scale like stage production. That would be very interesting.
Oh, come on. You want to see you want to see it. The Edge of Destruction, the musical. Come on.
I don't know about musical.
Well, you'd have to be if it was going to make Broadway.
Don't need to be Broadway. They just need to be a stage play.
But yeah, just like watching this through twice was just like it just works for that, especially because there's like basically no music anyway. And just the like watching it through the second time is just like, you know what? I actually really like this. It's kind of as insane as it is, and as much as it's like, as soon as it was brought up that this was basically thrown together at the last minute, and you can and that like explains a lot. I'm willing to give this like a lot of leeway because this is just very enjoyable in how insane it gets. But it's definitely not without flaws. But I just enjoy the hell out of it anyway.
Actually, you know what this episode reminds me a lot of? Or at least the idea that comes to mind for me a lot, is John Carpenter's The Thing without the thing. Because it's literally about people panicking about something and blaming each other.
Right.
Which
it's
I guess
kind of
fun,
like I was mentioning, like the like a murder mystery or whatever.
You are aware The Thing is a remake, right?
Yes, I'm aware, but the original Thing was not as paranoid as the John Carpenter Thing.
Had some good humor bits though.
It had good humor, yeah, but it's not as paranoid as the remake.
Of course, it's funny you bring that up because I'm pretty sure there's like a Tom Baker era story or something like that. That's basically sort of The Thing-ish or like Thing from Another World.
Well, Tom Baker would precede. Not precede Thing from Another World, but definitely precede John Carpenter.
Yeah.
Yeah, Doctor Who doesn't precede Thing from Another World.
Right.
I think I know which Horror Fang Rock.
Might be. I forget exactly.
The one where they're trapped in the light tower.
Oh yeah, because it has the shapeshifter.
And the shapeshifter and stuff. Yeah. That. There you go.
All right.
The Rutin, is that it?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Anyway. The are you done, Thomas?
Yeah, I'm done.
All right.
Yeah, I would generally say that people should definitely check this out.
All right. So I like this episode. I don't love this episode. And the only reason for that is why a bunch of plot lines, basically were hanging in thin air. That's the only thing that turns this from me loving this episode into me merely liking this episode. Other than that, I have no problems with the acting. The direction is good. The special effects for, non-existent, but they didn't need to be because they weren't really doing much of anything needing special effects. It was a very good drama episode. Kind of a what was causing it, who done it. And it worked in that. I just wish they'd had enough time to finish piecing together all the other stuff, or it's almost like they wrote the ending after they had filmed the week before, which is possible. And thus just completely dropped the whole people acting out of sorts. Anyway, that's my opinions. Let's go to the ratings.
Before we do ratings, I forgot to mention something I was saving for my final thoughts, and that is, I know that they had to make this in black and white, but even if this had been made in a color era, it should have been made black and white because the black and white really works for it.
Mm.
Kind
That's
does,
all.
yeah.
So you wouldn't want to see a colorized version.
Probably not. I don't think it would be as effective unless they use like gallo lighting.
All right. Anyway, ratings, Matt.
Most of my feelings about this one are generally positive, so I'm going to have to say it almost is lower, but it's just barely makes it by to a 4.
4.0. Okay. All right. And then Tim.
And I will side with Matt and give it a 4.
Yee.
Bill.
It's not very often that I'm on this side of Tim's rating, but I'm giving this a 5.
Whoa!
Jesus.
You could maybe argue it down to a 4.5, but I don't. I think of this as a 5 out of 5 episode.
Wow, I
Thomas?
thought I was feeling nice about this.
I was going back and forth between whether I'd go 4.5 or 5, but fuck it, if Bill's going for it, so am I.
Jesus.
I'm going at a 5.
All right. Just a moment.
Wow, Tim, we're selling the Lobies right now.
Oh, man.
How'd this happen? How did this
Randy's
happen
keeping
to
us in
me?
suspense.
I'm sorry. I just
the
realized
pandemic.
it's a new season. I forgot to put the average. So
He just chose the most suspenseful moment
and
to do it.
I am going to agree with Matt and Tim and give this a 4.0.
Ooh.
Like I said, I like it. I don't love it.
Mm-hmm.
So between that, the 3 4s and the 2 5s, it averages out to a 4.4. Let me make sure that did carry over to the master sheet. And yep. And with a 4.4, this will join a myriad of other episodes and come in at number 74 out of a total of 338 things reviewed. It is on par with
Welcome to the top third.
The War Games, Terror of the Zygons, the Santaran Stratagem Poison Sky, The Husbands of River Song, the only good River Song episode, Face the Raven, oddly enough, The Haunting of the Villa Diodati is in there, The Time Warrior, Partners in Crime, Rise of the Cybermen, Age of Steel, The 11th Hour. It is better than The Three Doctors, Nightmare in Silver, The Ice Warriors, Dalek Invasion of Earth, The Battle of Ranskor-Evkalos, Web of Fear, etc. And is not as good as Rosa, The Woman Who Fell to Earth, The War Machines, The Invasion, The Rebos Operation, Thin Ice, Mission to the Unknown, Resolution, etc. So there we go. Number 74 of 338. That is all we have to say about The Edge of Destruction.
All right, so those in the audience, make sure to give us your comments below as to how you feel about this episode. And don't forget to like or dislike if you do. And to subscribe if you want to keep getting our YouTube exports. Or to follow if you want to keep seeing our new streams on Twitch.
All right, next week, we will continue our attempt here to close out all of the remaining William Hartnell episodes that we have not yet reviewed, and continue on with Season 1 with The Keys of Marinus, written by Terry Nation, yes, the Dalek person, and starring William Hartnell as the Doctor, Carol Ann Ford as Susan, Jacqueline Hill as Barbara Wright, and William Russell as Ian Chesterton. See you next week.
We're in for a long sit, as I recall. See you later.